We're going to have a good, I hope, interactive discussion now for about half an hour around this whole section's discussion of sort of the opportunities and challenges around connected home. We've already heard from a number of perspectives what's happening potentially with distributed video around the home, how energy can play into that, how physical gateway products are adapting to those challenges. What I'd love to get from the panelists as they sort of do their first introductions is what they've seen or what they're running on their networks or with their customers, where you're actually seeing boots on the ground, where you're actually seeing real consumers use some of these services, ideally not necessarily the video services, which we understand quite well, but those other services and how that's going, what we're learning from that, and what we need to do to take that to the next level. So, starting at this end, we have a microphone. Please, quick introduction to yourselves and what you're seeing in the marketplace that you feel is interesting.
All right, my name is Raoul Witjegangs from Sigma Designs. Sigma Designs is a technology chip company in media processors for televisions and set-top boxes, as well as connectivity products, mostly over existing wires. And thirdly, also in the area of home controls and home monitoring, we have an entire product line with Z-Wave technology. What we are seeing in the market is, obviously on the media processor side, that is pretty well known. In terms of Z-Wave for home controls and home monitoring, that is taking off extremely rapidly. Service providers, Verizon, as well as AT&T have deployed with our technology inside in North America, as well as security service providers such as ADT and Vivint have deployed. I think what is important for the deployments there is that you see where the successes are, is where there are existing business models. Home control has been tried many times in energy, but there is no existing business model there. Security and anything around security is where there is an existing business models, and that's where these technologies are taking off, first and foremost. There's no doubt that they will migrate over time into digital wellness, digital health, into energy management as well, but it starts all in and around security and home monitoring.
Thank you, Ron.
Hi, I'm Leslie Taylor. I work for Cox Communications, and we've recently launched last couple of years, home security product from the telco perspective. So I've had the pleasure of learning about that entirely new world, coming from mainly a background of internet and phones. So it's been an interesting road. So we actually kind of offer the flip side. So ADT, AT&T, those are our competitors. So we use a slightly different standard, which is Zigbee, as opposed to Z-Wave. But what we have found, as you stated, is that security is in fact the model that all of these other things can ride upon. But first and foremost is focusing on the security and the monitoring service first. So we've had some good success there, but it's a new business. So we're definitely continuing to grow in those aspects.
Thank you, Leslie.
Hello, I'm Giampaolo Balboni, Strategy Trends in Telecom Italia. And well, look to the market. The connected devices are proliferating, and a lot of them are already in the home. But really, with the exception of devices that are used for video consumption, web consumption, that are well for tablet, smartphone, and so on, we don't see a great momentum, at least in Italy, in our market, also in our market in Latin America, that's a little bit far behind in the development for real smart home-oriented services. Actually, we have carried out a lot of activities, trial, experimental, also with real people in mainly energy saving, energy monitoring, and in some aspect of security and e-health and so on. And we see a collection of niche markets that individually do not, from our perception at least, do not justify now a big movement on the market in our footprint. And so, as a matter of fact, the only action we have actually carried out was to include the new generation of access gateway we have been developing and distributing in the market since May this year, together with our fiber to the building proposition. The enabling software infrastructure that will allow to develop on top of that application and services in a scheme that we have already seen at least twice this afternoon from different vendors, in order to be ready to deploy something when we feel the market will be more ready to accept a real proposition.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Bilal Chalabi. I'm the co-founder and chairman of Airtie's Wireless Networks. Some of the trends that we've been seeing is obviously video distribution throughout the home has already been deployed, but using mostly wireline technologies like either MoCA or Powerline. But with the advent of all the connected devices, the tablets, etc., being able to stream over Wi-Fi has become a critical issue, and especially since most of these devices are fundamentally on separate networks. The TV network is either a DVB network or a totally different VLAN for IPTV, and they're not necessarily connected with the tablet or the smartphone. So you really need an integrated network that combines most of these. And historically, Wi-Fi has not had the performance to be able to stream video around the house. But with the latest available chipsets with beamforming and 11AC, as well, if you couple a mesh capability into that, then now what we're seeing is that video streaming over Wi-Fi is getting readily deployed. Swisscom in Europe is wide-scale deployed. BSkyB has gone that way. AT&T in the US is also going that way. And so we basically think that a very robust home network that's going to be able to sustain close to 100 megabits worth of total capacity and throughput is what's going to be a key enabler of all of these new services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Guillaume Pousseau. I'm heading the connected devices team in Vodafone. So I'm in charge of the development of all the connectivity devices for at home, for the connected home, and also outside of the home. Connected home is something that we love because it creates more and more traffic on our networks. So this is, I would say, something that we are very, very keen to develop. We have already, and we will keep investing a lot in developing extremely fast broadband networks. So 4G, we will invest in fiber, we will invest in convergent networks. What is clearly missing today is some kind of industry standard that would allow us to utilize something that has been completely underutilized in the home, is the gateway. And I think the previous presentation by EDF was quite clear. Everybody's waiting for the other to set the standards. We are not going to set the standards. They are not going to, the utilities are not going to set the standards. So who's going to set the standard? Maybe at some point we should sit down all together and define a standard that we will start rolling out in all the gateways in the home and make it and make the connected home a reality.
We've got 15 minutes. I'm sure we can do that in the next sort of 15, 20 minutes. Thanks, panel. Two things that were touched on there that I'd like to sort of build on. One of them was the very important idea of not trying to change consumer behavior, but trying to deliver services that either replace existing consumer behavior that's really, really annoying, or are more robust or practical services than the ones that consumers are already paying for. And security, I think, is one that I'd like to sort of touch on again. in that we've seen a lot of success in the States from Cox, from AT&T, and from, of course, the established security firms around pay-for services, pay-for monitoring services, which I'll get Leslie to speak to in a second. But I'm interested from the rest of the panel in terms of the market outside the US. Is that fundamentally a different market for home security? But Leslie, first, maybe your thoughts on how well that's going in the States and why it has taken off so well?
Well, when we looked at the market research, there is interest in, sort of the home automation aspects, being able to control your lights, the, energy. But security has typically been sort of that hard thing that people have sought our services for. And then the other things are sort of, interesting and good to have. Mm-hmm. But I think what is definitely clear is customers really do want one platform. Nest is great in terms of functionality, but you've got Philips Hue with light bulbs, and that's just, 2 devices. So the more individual devices you have, the bigger deal it's going to be to have one place to go and one portal to kind of manage it all through. In particular, some of these devices aren't exactly easy to set up. So that's really what we've seen a lot of success is that we come in and we can make sure that everything works together and works exactly as you want it to. And, some of the other things that have been particularly popular, the ability to have cameras, to be able to view your home while you're away, to be able to arm and disarm while you're away. Those have been extremely popular features, for our services. But really where I think the biggest opportunity that telco providers that we have is that we're already having a conversation with the customers. They're calling us, thousands of times a day on a whole bunch of different issues. And every one of those moments is a transaction point to say, by the way, we offer this service. So I think, from a telco provider, that's a tremendous opportunity, whatever you decide to launch, that others won't have.
I want to pass on to the panel for some thoughts in a moment, but do you, as the telco, know which households have a monitored alarm system?
We don't. And that's
you wouldn't be able to use that information anyway.
No, well, believe me, we had a very expensive bad direct mail campaign trying to acquire that information. What we do know now that we've been in it for a couple of years is the propensity to buy. So we have identified the customers by income, by dwell type, and by sort of this demographic, psychographic profile to a pretty high degree. So we can say, okay, this group we know is 50%, likely to purchase the service. And at the very top decile, they're 30 times more likely to buy the service. So we've gotten better at that. But that is, it's the same thing with how do we find out if they have a dish on the roof. Yeah. So,
Gianpaolo, one of the things, presumably in those small niche markets that you have found a similar sort of small number of people who are interested in those kind of security. So does that, regardless of technology limitations or maybe price, does that become a more mainstream offering, do you think, over time? Or is it really you've reached that niche?
First of all, I don't think that the telco is the right brand to sell security to the market. Right. So let's start from this viewpoint. So we need to set up a value chain with other more when they're more recognized on the market and they're more the market is more aware of. And this is an interesting problem because also we don't have any real view of who is already using some service of connected security system. This is an over-the-top service from our perspective because we have a lot of SIM placing somewhere that our customer has bought as a voice SIM, by the way, neither has a machine-to-machine SIM, and has plugged into a remote control for security systems, perhaps at the main home or somewhere in the secondary home. And we discover that by chance often, because we managing that our SIM base, and so we remotely disconnect consumers that do not call after a few years, okay? And so we get back complaints from people that complain to be disconnected. They have the SIM placed in some security system somewhere, okay? So this is a specific instance of a general problem of how to reconnect to over-the-top services and to integrate into a managed service. I don't have an easy, precise answer to that. It's a complex problem. But I would like to make a comment, if I can, about your previous sentence about changing behavior of the customers or adapting to behavior of the customer. We don't need to be arrogant to pretend to change, to force changing behavior. But if we provide opportunities, the behavior of the customers will change them by themselves. Yes. And we have seen that very clearly in our trials about energy service and control, energy management services that we have done, providing tools to people and pushing for a community, a growth of community around the tools. A lot of interesting behavior comes out about competition, emulation, comparison, and engagement. And so at the end of the day, what we've discovered was most interesting for us as a service provider, more than getting €1 more a month from a customer, is getting the engagement of the customer with our service proposition, with us, and with the community that the service proposition is stimulating. So this is a changing of behavior that is very much relevant, not forced, but triggered.
No, I think that's absolutely fair. EDF touched on sort of energy meters. Most European governments have these initiatives to roll out energy meters to the home. Some of them have pulled back on those to a degree when they worked out how much it was going to cost and how much money they didn't have. But that is a positive behavioural change. It doesn't save you money just by having an energy meter. It's the fact that you or the community can see, oh my God, when I leave that external security light on overnight, it's costing me €30 a month. And that is positive behavioural change. I think the problem where we see, the Philips app for the lights and the Nest app for the thermometer and all of those apps adding up, like Technicolor implied this morning, is that's a negative change. People are suddenly scrolling through hundreds of apps on their phone to try and work out how to turn the lights off. And that's the danger of that single branding. Any other thoughts on that? That's the sort of the European market, particularly around security.
So if you compare the US and the European market with respect to professional security, in the US you have about 18% penetration in households with professional security systems. And in Europe, I think Sweden is the country with the highest penetration of about 8%. So they are different, but they're all not massively deployed services. But that's also where the opportunity lies, I think, for a lot of the operators. It is not about the 8% or the 18%. It is about the remaining 82% or the remaining 92% that is out there. And these consumers are not necessarily looking for professional security systems. What they're looking for is a home monitoring solution, much more than anything else. They're not looking for a professional call center to be in between themselves and their smartphones and their homes. What they want is their homes to notify them directly themselves. They can see what's going on with the IP cameras, as mentioned before, and based on that information, they can take action. But at the same time, they don't only want this for people breaking into their houses. They want this on a very positive note as well. They want to see when the kids are coming home, they type in their PIN codes on the door lock, and a picture gets sent, and you can see that your daughter came home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You can see that they came home alone, rather than with a whole bunch of friends to go and play. These sorts of things are relevant for them. Or when people live in warm areas. When they leave the office, they would like to switch on the air conditioner half an hour before they're home. So they come home in a cool house, rather than having a programmed thermostat that every day at 6 o'clock the air conditioner switches on. Whether you come home at 6 o'clock or whether you come home at 9 o'clock, it's there wasting energy for you.
That's a good point. Good point. I will throw the floor open to the audience. Oh, somebody at the back. I was at the back, isn't it? Bear with me a second.
Duncan Bees from HGI. I was just wondering, mainly for Guillaume, but maybe for anyone who cares to take it. Guillaume, you mentioned that what we really need is a standardized approach to the home gateway platform, and obviously HGI is looking in that direction, but what are your thoughts about what is needed there to make the connected home or smart home a reality? Thank you.
Really good with another mic.
Well, for me, that's pretty simple. The first one is the hardware layer, let's call it like this. So you were mentioning earlier the example of the smart energy meters. What is the link between a smart energy meter and a gateway? At European level, have we said the link will be over Wi-Fi, DECT-ULE, ZigBee, Z-Wave? No, we haven't. So there was a tender in the UK, and it was up to the players to decide on the standard. But this is not the way we're going to do anything, because if a country decides on one standard or one technology, then the other one might choose another one. So that's also the role of I don't know if it's the European Commission or whoever the standardizations body, to tell us, look, from a very pragmatic and practical perspective, this is going to be the technology. So that's the number one, I would say. To be honest, today, I don't know if in the next gateway, I need to put DECT, ZigBee, Z-Wave, a combination, everything modular. So we need to be pragmatic. If we want something to take off, we need to. It's something that we need to achieve together. And the second layer is the software layer. Let's assume that we have something agreed on the wireless layer. Then we need also to agree something on the software layer, because in the case of smart home or smart energy meters, these meters will need to send some information with a certain format to a gateway or to any other device. I don't really care, but in my case, the case of a telco, a gateway, and the gateway needs to be able to receive it, interpret it, and potentially send back some information to the smart meter. So I think I think we're relying too much on the market players, and we need a little bit of direction there. If we solve these two layers, I think, and it's not a big deal. I mean, it's not a matter of if we solve these two problems, I think we will be able to see things moving.
Okay. Any other thoughts from the panel? Leslie?
I just want to add one, just to echo what you said. I think it's not just about those ZigBee and Z-Wave. When I look at the other standard that I think we really need to incorporate, it's Bluetooth. You know, when you think about the Jawbone Up and some of these, tremendous healthcare devices, they're using cellular. So really what that layer needs to take into account is all three, so that it's a nice open standard. A customer can choose whatever device they want, the WeThings camera, and they can connect it to the network, and it will all play, within that portal and within the home easily.
Good point.
Yeah, I think also, even if I'm standing here purely from a Z-Wave perspective, it is clear that there isn't going to be a single technology that will be the one and only technology that will survive in this space. What I think is absolutely important, and what we've heard here a few times before, we need to leave a lot of the choices up to the consumers to figure out what works best for them. And what we have done to a very large degree is just that. We've worked and built an interoperable ecosystem with 1,000 devices that consumers can choose from. And that is the biggest reason why companies are adopting the Z-Wave technology, because they want to leave that choice up to the consumer. They see what is the biggest ecosystem out there that works together, and that's the basis of selection of what they go to market with. But it will never be an exclusive deal with just Z-Wave. There will always be a place for Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and Zigbee too.
On a related tack, Roland, has this been fixed in the Wi-Fi world? I know the answer is going to be no, but presumably in the Wi-Fi world we're a bit closer to that unification.
We're definitely a lot closer to that unification. I mean, just looking at the software stack and compatibility and things like that, the technologies that essentially utilize Ethernet packets or Ethernet formats and IP stacks end up getting very, very successful, and then other technologies you end up having to develop totally different stacks to be able to deploy it. In the Wi-Fi case, I mean, there's now very low power initiatives underway. There's high-speed versions, et cetera, and they all interoperate, and that's an absolutely key factor. So that, you know, when you are installing a thermostat from one guy and a power control from somebody else, that it's relatively easy to integrate those into the software stack and use all the higher level APIs and et cetera to be able to communicate on a total infrastructure basis.
Good point. We have time for one more question. Mic relay. Actually, can somebody just pass that back?
Hello, Daniel Santos from Post Luxembourg. I have a question. I would like to come back to the security approach and business case we about at the beginning of the session. Don't you think, as a telco operator, that it is a risky business to go the security way, since the experience customer have with security solutions are really, really different than from with multimedia and appliances like this way. And if I place myself in the customer, and I think my home got there's an intrusion because of there was a technical failure due to a telecom operator which has sold me my security solution. Basically, I would say I lost completely confidence in that operator, and I would let's say quit all services with them. And don't you think going this way is much more risky? And at the end, I mean, we would leave with, as you said, something that is more like nice to have and not really in the security business.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Well, actually, what we like best about that is that we do own that connection. So, you know, our product's served over broadband, but we also have wireless backup. So there are redundancies built in for that. You know, our employees love the fact that they control the full relationship. So one phone call, one technical issue, if there was one, it can be addressed. From the monitoring aspect, just to clarify, you know, our Cox employees are not, you know, they're not taking your 911 call. We outsource that to a fantastic company that has 5 redundant call centers. Phenomenal training. I actually visited one of their locations in Arizona. So we're very confident that the service they receive on that aspect is phenomenal. In fact, their response times are actually independently audited and even faster than ADT's. So we feel good about offering that connection. Now, it is something that we've had to overcome in the minds of consumers. You know, well, you're the cable company. You know, what makes you think you can go into security? Well, I've launched phone too, so I remember a really similar conversation happening there too. And now, you know, we're the incumbent in many Cox markets. So I absolutely think that there's opportunity here and we can take it.
Just sort of obviously, when you talk to telcos, classically, they're all trying to introduce services which are self-help, self-install, stop-a-truck role, basically. Security occurs to me as one where you're actually building up more capability for customer service, doing that install. It kind of goes counter to that sort of financial model which telcos are trying to move towards. Or does it?
Yes, but I think when you're talking about a monitored solution, you need to be very thorough. There is opportunity non-monitored. That's a different path. That's a path that we haven't gone down yet. Right. At least Cox, but Comcast has had tremendous success, and Rogers in that aspect. But yes, this is not. I would never want to self-install this product. One of the things that we can provide too is we're actually able to integrate systems, and that's another reason for the professional install. So if you have an ADT system, in a lot of cases we can come in and we can take over existing components with that system and make it operate with our touch screen and with the additional wireless capabilities that we offer. So you can kind of get the best of both worlds.
Panel, just to sort of broaden that question out a bit, it seems to me as though there's a liability issue here, which some of these services are opening service providers, device manufacturers, or operators up to, which you've never had to face before with, oh, my streaming movie's a bit crappy tonight. What happens there? Are we going to see those court cases, and they'll probably be in the States initially, around, oh my God, my smart lock, rather than monitoring, my smart lock unlocked at 4 o'clock this afternoon without any instruction from me, and somebody walked in and stole the flat screen TV. Is that, don't get me wrong, there are lots of hurdles to overcome before we get to a market where that might happen. But do you think that's plausible in the future and something that might dissuade operators? Or am I just riffing way too far off, being here in Amsterdam?
I think that is a concern that operators, we can hear it, are definitely looking at and say, how do we deal and want to deal with those liabilities? But to back up what Leslie is saying, what we're also seeing right now is that we get large insurance companies getting into this market because apart from just selling the insurances, they have a big interest to make sure that as little as possible will happen to these homes, and whether that is for burglar or whether that's for fire hazards or water hazards. And they're going in right now, backing up operators and trying to find out business models where insurance companies and operators work together, and they look at where their customer bases overlap. And they go and roll these things out and trying to make this home better and safer than before. But yes, it is something that everybody is thinking of and needs to think of.
Yeah, the fire prevention, please, anybody else who wants to grab the mic, jump in after me. The fire prevention one's interesting in that it's now mandated in US bedrooms that you have a smoke alarm. I think Germany's going the same way, France as well. And that's been driven by the insurance companies. Yes, because it saves lives, but also because it saves massive payouts down the line. So that is, you can see how that does. Their needs coincide with our industry's needs to introduce more of those services potentially.
Just short remarks. The short answer is yes. Telecom are concerned. Yes, the marketing department.
I can't remember the question.
Yes, the marketing department are concerned about liability, whatever. Yeah, and the observation that comes from the public was exactly the one we discussed with our marketing department. Do you need to take the risk for gaining a small percentage of the market, and you put in trouble the brand of the company? Well, this is a very, very, very relevant point. And of course, if the business model can be built with a global trustability system that includes other industry, other companies, insurance could be an example. Okay, things can be different. Okay, but for a direct to the consumer proposition, yes, there are concerns.
Yeah.
Let's meet again when we are at this point in time. Let's meet again when we have these problems, because they would be nice to have, I would say.
Yes,
First
indeed.
Of all, we need to build a business.
If you're looking at 1% of your customers suing at the moment, that's still nothing.
Just coming back on this security theme. the fact that we have now 4G networks and fiber networks being rolled out in Europe as well, the surveillance of homes is going to be easier and easier. And I was wondering if security was not going to take off maybe at last in Europe, because people will be able to remotely control what's happening in the homes or in flats, and that saves quite a lot of people in van circulating and having a look at what's happening. So I don't know. Food for thought.
No, thank you for that. That's our time gone, panel. So thank you very much for your time and your answers.